I watched through my living room curtain as my daughter's car pulled into the driveway, packed to the brim with boxes. She wasn't here for a visit. She was moving into a house that I no longer owned. I'm Patricia, but most people call me Patty, and I'm 72. Right now, I'm in my new apartment 3 states away, ready to share how my daughter tried to take everything from me and how I made sure she faced the consequences. Before we dive in, though, where are you tuning in from? Drop your state or country in the comments, because this story is going to take you on quite the ride, and I want to know who's along for the journey. It all kicked off 6 months ago on what seemed like a regular Tuesday afternoon. Melissa showed up at my door unannounced, which wasn't out of the ordinary. What was unusual was the folder she had with her and the fact that her husband Brandon stayed in the car instead of coming in to say hello. My daughter had always been ambitious. Ever since she was little, she wanted the biggest slice of cake, the lead role in the school play, the fanciest prom dress. I raised her to reach for the stars, but somewhere along the way, she started reaching into other people's pockets. "Mom, we need to talk about your future," she said, plopping down on my sofa without asking. The same couch where I'd rocked her to sleep as a baby, in the living room where we'd celebrated every Christmas for 43 years since my late husband and I bought this house in 1982. "My future seems pretty set," I replied, pouring her some chamomile tea she used to love. "I'm healthy, happy, and right where I want to be." She didn't touch the tea. Instead, she opened that folder and spread out papers across my coffee table like she was dealing cards. Business plans, loan applications, property assessments. "You're too old-fashioned to understand what I'm trying to build," Melissa said, not even looking at me. "Brandon and I have an opportunity to start a boutique consulting firm, but we need real capital, not some small business loan with impossible terms." I glanced at the papers and noticed my address at the bottom of one. My home's estimated value was $875,000. The neighborhood had become pricey over the years. What we bought for $89,000 in 1982 was now worth a small fortune because I'd maintained it with love for over 40 years. "What exactly are you suggesting?" I asked, even though my gut already knew. "Sell the house, Mom. You don't need all this space. There are great senior living communities where you'd have people your age, activities, and no maintenance to worry about." She finally looked at me, and her smile was so sweet, it could have fooled anyone who didn't know her. "You could live comfortably on a portion of the sale, and the rest could help your daughter secure her future. Isn't that what mothers do?" That's when I should have shown her the door, but I didn't. I wanted to see how far she would go. "Let me think about it," I told Melissa, watching her face light up like I'd already agreed. "Really, Mom? That's wonderful. I knew you'd understand once you heard me out." She quickly gathered her papers, as if I might change my mind. "I'll give you a week to process everything. We can meet with a real estate agent next Friday. I've got someone in mind who's excellent at getting top dollar for properties like yours." Of course she did. This wasn't a spontaneous idea. It was a well-crafted plan just waiting for my approval. After she left, I sat in my kitchen for an hour, staring at the walls my husband had painted periwinkle blue because I loved that color. Robert had been gone for 8 years, and not a day went by that I didn't miss him. But at that moment, I was grateful he wasn't there to see what our daughter had become. The next few days, Melissa called constantly, just checking in. "Mom, have you thought more about our conversation?" She sent links to senior living facilities, each one more depressing than the last. Shared rooms, scheduled meal times, activities like bingo and chair yoga, as if turning 70 meant turning off your brain. I'm 72, not dead. I still drive, garden, volunteer at the library every Wednesday, and have friends and hobbies. But to Melissa, I was just an obstacle between her and nearly $1 million. On Thursday, she came by again, this time with Brandon. He'd always been quiet, letting his wife do the talking. But that afternoon, he walked through my house like he was appraising merchandise, commenting on the hardwood floors, the updated kitchen, and the large backyard. "Prime real estate," he said to Melissa, not to me. "We could probably get even more than the estimate if we time it right. Spring market's coming up." They talked about my home, my life, like I wasn't even there. Mom, I brought some brochures, Melissa said, handing me glossy pamphlets for places called Sunset Gardens and Golden Years Manor, names that tried to make aging sound peaceful instead of what it really was, living. I took the brochures, smiled, and played the part of the confused old woman who needed her daughter's guidance. Meanwhile, I was taking mental notes, watching them watch me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying Melissa's words about your future, like she got to decide it. Around 2 a.m., I got out of bed and did something I'm not proud of, something that would change everything. Melissa had left her phone on my counter while she used the bathroom earlier. When she came back, she rushed to leave, and I noticed it sitting there. What I hadn't mentioned was that I'd seen her passcode months ago when she showed me vacation photos. 4 simple numbers, 08115, her birthday. I also knew her email password. She'd asked me to print something from her account once, and I'd watched her type it in. I shouldn't have logged into Melissa's email. I know that privacy matters, even between mothers and daughters. But something told me if I didn't look, I'd regret it for the rest of my life. It took me 20 minutes to figure out how to access email from my laptop. I'm not completely tech illiterate, but I wouldn't call myself fluent either. Finally, I got in. The first few emails were ordinary work correspondence and shopping confirmations. But then I searched for my name, and my heart dropped. Mom agreed. Melissa had written to Brandon just hours after our first conversation. Well, she said she'd think about it, but that's basically a yes. She's too polite to say no to my face. Give her a week to feel like it was her idea, then we move forward. I kept reading. Another email, this one to someone named Richard Chen, a real estate attorney. We'll need the sale to proceed quickly once she signs. My mother tends to overthink things, and I don't want her backing out. Can we structure it so the papers are final once she initials? My hands shook so badly I almost closed the laptop, but I didn't. I kept going. 3 emails down, I found one that made my blood run cold. It was a forward from Brandon to Melissa, sent 2 weeks before she even approached me. The subject line read, Owood Senior Care Facility, Shared Room Availability. I opened it. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Peterson, thank you for your inquiry about long-term care for your mother. We currently have availability in our shared accommodation wing. The monthly rate is $3,200, covering room, board, and basic care services. Based on your description of her health status and financial situation, this would be our recommended option. More private arrangements start at $6,800 per month. But as you mentioned, budget is a concern. Budget was a concern. They were planning to sell my $875,000 house and stick me in the cheapest nursing home while pocketing the difference. But it got worse. I found a text message thread Melissa had forwarded to her email, probably for record keeping. The conversation was between her and Brandon, dated just 3 days ago. Brandon, what if she doesn't want to sell? Melissa asked. Then we moved to Plan B. I've been researching. We could potentially get power of attorney if we can prove she's not mentally competent. She forgot my birthday last year and has mentioned mixing up her medications before. Is that enough? Brandon replied. It's a start. Worst case, we wait it out. She's 72. How much longer can she really hold on to that house anyway? I read that message 17 times, hoping I misunderstood. Each time, the words stayed the same. My daughter wasn't just trying to take my house. She was planning to take my independence, my dignity, my whole life, and she was willing to paint me as mentally incompetent to do it. I closed the laptop. I didn't cry. I got angry. The next morning, I called my own lawyer, not the family attorney who'd handled Robert's will since Melissa knew him. I found someone new, a woman named Susan Bartlett, who specialized in estate planning and elder law. I need to make some changes to my will, I told her over the phone, and I need to do it quietly. We met that afternoon at her office, a modest suite downtown. Susan was maybe 50, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense vibe. I showed her the printed emails, and I watched her face tighten as she read them. Mrs. Peterson, I'm very sorry you're going through this, she said, sliding the papers back across her desk. Unfortunately, it's not as uncommon as you'd think. Financial exploitation of elderly parents is a growing problem. I'm not elderly, I said sharply. I'm 72 and perfectly capable. I can see that, she smiled. So let's make sure your daughter sees it too. What exactly did you have in mind? I told her my plan, and as I spoke, her smile grew wider. Over the next 2 weeks, I played the perfect part. When Melissa called, I sounded uncertain and confused, asking the same questions multiple times. Now, which facility did you say had the garden? I'd ask, even though she'd told me 3 times. I wanted her to feel confident, overconfident. I met with her real estate agent friend, a sharply dressed woman named Amanda, who talked too fast and smiled too much. I asked simple questions about the selling process, nodding along as she explained market values and closing costs. Your daughter mentioned you're looking to downsize, Amanda said, her tone dripping with condescension. That's so smart. Houses like this require so much upkeep. At my age, I still know how to use a lawnmower, I interrupted. But yes, Melissa thinks it's time. I let them think they were winning. Meanwhile, I was busy. I met with Susan twice more, contacted the charity that had meant the most to Robert and me, the Riverside Women's Shelter, where we'd volunteered for 15 years. I made phone calls, signed papers, opened new accounts, and started packing. Not everything, just the things that mattered: Robert's wedding ring, our photo albums, my mother's china, the quilt my grandmother made. I carefully boxed them and moved them to a storage unit across town, paying for a year in advance with cash. Melissa noticed nothing. She was too busy planning her business launch, sending me links to office spaces she and Brandon were considering. Once the house sells, we'll be able to afford the perfect location, she told me during one visit, her eyes gleaming. Right downtown, glass walls, modern furniture, nothing old-fashioned. That word again, old-fashioned, like it was an insult, as if the values I'd tried to teach her, honesty, integrity, respect, were outdated concepts that didn't matter anymore. That sounds lovely, dear, I said, pouring her tea she wouldn't drink. I knew you'd come around, Mom. She patted my hand like I was a child. You're doing the right thing. Dad would be proud of you for helping family. Robert would have been horrified, but I didn't say that. I just smiled and counted down the days. The signing was scheduled for a Friday. Amanda had drawn up the listing papers, and Melissa had arranged everything so efficiently it made my skin crawl. We were meeting at the real estate office at 10 a.m. I arrived 15 minutes early, wearing the same floral dress I'd worn to Robert's funeral. Melissa probably thought I was being sentimental. Really, I was reminding myself what was at stake, honoring the life Robert and I built, the home we made, the future we planned. Melissa came in exactly on time, with Brandon trailing behind her as always. Amanda was already there, papers spread across the conference table, sticky tabs marking where I needed to sign. Mom, you look nice, Melissa said, kissing my cheek. The affection felt like sandpaper. Are you ready for this new chapter? I've been thinking a lot about new chapters, I said, about endings and beginnings. That's the spirit, Amanda jumped in, sliding the first document toward me. Now, if you'll just initial here, and sign at the bottom. I picked up the pen, held it over the paper, watched Melissa lean forward, barely breathing. Then I set the pen down. Actually, I can't sign this, I said calmly. The room went silent. Melissa's smile froze. What do you mean you can't sign it? Mom, we've been over this 100 times. You agreed. I said I'd think about it. I did, and I've made my decision. I stood up, straightening my dress. I'm not selling my house. Not to fund your business. Not now. Not ever. Melissa's face turned red. Are you serious right now? After everything we've planned, after I've already put deposits down on office space? That sounds like poor financial planning on your part. Brandon finally spoke up. Mrs. Peterson, be reasonable. You don't need that big house. You're alone there. Melissa's just trying to help you. Help me into a $200 a month shared room at Oakwood while you pocket the rest? I asked quietly. The color drained from both their faces. How did you? Melissa started. How did I know about your plans, about the emails, the text discussing my supposed mental incompetence? I picked up my purse. I'm 72, Melissa, not stupid, and definitely not old-fashioned enough to let my own daughter rob me blind. Mom, you went through my emails. That's a violation of my privacy. The audacity almost made me laugh. And you were planning to declare me mentally unfit to steal my home. I think we're even. Amanda cleared her throat awkwardly. Perhaps we should reschedule when everyone's had time to cool down. There won't be a rescheduling, I said. Miss Chen, I appreciate your time, but your services won't be needed. I walked toward the door. Melissa grabbed my arm. You're making a huge mistake. When you're alone in that house, unable to take care of yourself, don't come crying to me. I looked at her hand on my arm, then at her face. Melissa, I'd rather die alone in my home than live one day under your care. I left them standing there and didn't look back. But I wasn't done. Not even close. The real work began that weekend. On Saturday morning, I met with Susan again, this time at her office with a notary present. Are you absolutely certain about this? Susan asked one last time. Once these papers are signed, there's no going back. I've never been more certain of anything in my life, I told her. I signed the deed transfer. My house, all $870,000 worth of it, no longer belonged to me. It now belonged to the Riverside Women's Shelter, the charity Robert and I had supported for years. The same shelter that had helped dozens of women escape abuse, find jobs, and rebuild their lives. The agreement was simple. I could live in the house for as long as I wanted. When I either moved out or passed away, the property would be sold and the proceeds would go to the shelter. Not a penny would go to Melissa. Your daughter could potentially contest this, Susan warned. Let her try, I replied. I signed my updated will next, leaving Melissa exactly $1 and a letter explaining why. Everything else, my savings, my retirement accounts, my personal belongings, would be split between 3 charities and 2 cousins who'd actually stayed in touch over the years. Then came the part that made me feel both guilty and gleeful. I was moving. I'd found a beautiful apartment in Portland, Oregon, 3 states away. A friend from my library volunteer group had moved there 2 years ago and had been begging me to visit. When I called her and explained the situation, she helped me find a place within a week, a sunny 2-bedroom with a balcony overlooking the river in a building full of active seniors who organize book clubs and hiking trips. When do you want to list your house? The property manager from the shelter asked. Not yet, I said. I need about 2 weeks to finish moving. After that, you can do whatever you'd like with it. Those 2 weeks were a blur. I hired movers, paying in cash. People Melissa didn't know came on a Tuesday while she was at work, packing up 43 years of memories in 8 hours. I kept my cell phone off so she couldn't reach me. I wanted radio silence. My neighbor Frank watched the whole thing from his porch. He'd known me since the 1980s, attended Robert's funeral, and seen Melissa grow up. Everything okay, Patty? He asked as the movers loaded the truck. Everything's perfect, Frank. I'm going on an adventure. What should I tell that daughter of yours when she comes looking? Tell her the truth, I said. Tell her I'm gone. I left on a Thursday morning, driving my old Honda Civic with my cat, Whiskers, meowing in his carrier on the passenger seat. I didn't leave a note. I didn't say goodbye. I just left the house keys on the kitchen counter with a copy of the deed transfer and a simple note: the house is no longer mine to sell. Good luck with your business. I drove for 3 days, stopping at motels, eating at diners, feeling lighter with every mile I put between myself and that life. I didn't tell Melissa where I was going, but I made sure she'd find out eventually. I'd been in Portland for exactly 3 weeks when Melissa finally tracked down my new number. I don't know how she got it, probably called every relative until someone caved. It was a Tuesday evening, and I was having tea on my balcony, watching the sun set over the river. My phone rang. Her name popped up on the screen. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Hello, Mom. She was screaming so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. What the hell did you do? Where are you? Why is there a charity sign on our house? Not your house, Melissa. It was never your house. You donated it. Donated it? Are you insane? That's my inheritance. That's my future. Your inheritance is $1. Check your mail. My new will should arrive any day now. The silence that followed was so complete I thought she'd hung up. Then you can't do this. I'll contest it. I'll get a lawyer. I already have a lawyer, a very good one, and I'm completely mentally competent, in case you were wondering. Sharp as a tack, according to my doctor. I had him document it just in case you tried pulling that incompetency stunt you and Brandon discussed. I heard her breathing on the other end, heavy and angry. This is because I asked you to sell? Because I wanted help starting a business? The kind of mother who punishes her daughter for asking for help? The kind whose daughter tried to have her declared incompetent and stuffed in a cheap nursing home, I said calmly. I read the emails, Melissa, the texts, all of it. You had no right, and you had no right to plan out my entire future without my consent. But here we are, another long silence. When she spoke again, her voice had changed, softer, calculating. Mom, I think we got off on the wrong foot. Maybe I pushed too hard. Why don't I come visit wherever you are? We can talk this through. I'm sure we can work something out. And there it was. She still thought she could manipulate me. Still thought if she showed up in person, turned on the tears, played the devoted daughter, I'd crack. I'm not telling you where I am. Come on, Mom. I'm your daughter, your only child. You can't just cut me off completely. Watch me. Fine, fine. The rage was back. Stay hidden in whatever hole you've crawled into. But you're going to get old. Mom, you're going to get sick. And when you do, when you're lying in a hospital bed with no one to visit you, no one to take care of you, you're going to regret this. You're going to die alone. I took a sip of my tea, watching a boat drift down the river. Melissa, I'd rather die alone and free than live one day as your prisoner. Goodbye. I hung up. She called back 17 times that night. I blocked her number. 2 days later, my cousin Jennifer called. Melissa's asking everyone where you are. She sounds desperate. Let her be desperate, I said. Don't tell her anything. I won't, but Patty, she's your daughter. I know. That was the hardest part. Life in Portland was peaceful, almost too peaceful at first. I'd spent so many decades being a mother, a wife, a caretaker that I barely remembered how to just be Patty. But I learned. I joined the book club in my building, made friends with a woman named Dorothy who taught watercolor classes, and started volunteering at the local animal shelter on Wednesdays. Turned out I liked cats even more than I'd thought. Whiskers certainly approved. My apartment overlooked the river, and every morning I'd have coffee on the balcony, watching joggers and cyclists pass below. No yard to maintain, no gutters to clean, no memories haunting every corner. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't think about Melissa. Every time my phone rang with an unknown number, my heart would jump. Part of me hoped she'd apologize. Actually apologize, not just try to manipulate me back into her plans. But the calls that did come were never from her. She'd given up trying to reach me directly. Instead, she tried going through others. Jennifer called once a month with updates I never asked for. Melissa's business didn't work out, she told me in July. They couldn't get the funding without your house money. That's unfortunate, I said, feeling nothing. In September, she and Brandon are having problems. I think the stress got to them. Marriage is hard, I replied neutrally. In October, she asked about you. Wanted to know if you were okay. I'm fine. Please stop giving her updates about me. I wasn't trying to be cruel. I just needed space, distance, a life that was mine and mine alone. The shelter sent me updates about the house. They decided not to sell it immediately. Instead, they were using it as transitional housing for women leaving abusive situations. Up to 3 families could live there at a time, rent-free, while they got back on their feet. Robert would have loved that. I certainly did. You've changed lives, the shelter director told me during a phone call. We've already helped 4 families because of your generosity. That meant more than Melissa's business ever could have. By November, I'd settled into a routine. Monday mornings were for the farmer's market. Wednesdays at the animal shelter. Friday nights, our building had potluck dinners. Weekends were for whatever struck my fancy. Hiking, painting, reading, or just sitting on my balcony with Whiskers purring in my lap. I was happy, genuinely, surprisingly happy. Then, on a cold Tuesday in early December, Jennifer called with an edge in her voice. Patty, I think you should know. Melissa found out where you are. My stomach dropped. How? I don't know. Maybe she hired someone. Maybe she saw something on social media. Did you post any photos? I thought back. Dorothy had taken a picture of our book club last week and posted it, tagging everyone. The location was visible. Damn it, I whispered. She's talking about driving out there. She keeps saying you need to face reality and that she deserves to see you. When? I don't know. Soon, maybe. Patty, I'm sorry. I tried to. It's not your fault, I said. Thanks for the warning. After I hung up, I sat very still thinking. Then I started to smile. If Melissa wanted to see me, she could. I'd be ready. She arrived on a Saturday morning, exactly 1 week after Jennifer's warning. I was prepared. I'd spent that week getting ready, not hiding, not running, preparing. I'd invited 2 witnesses, my lawyer, Susan, who'd flown in from home, and Dorothy from my building, who was sharp as a tack and had volunteered to help. I was sitting in my living room when the buzzer rang. Dorothy answered it. "Yes, I'm here to see Patricia Peterson." Melissa's voice came through tight and controlled. "I'm her daughter." "Come on up. Fourth floor, apartment 4C. I heard footsteps in the hallway, then knocking. Dorothy opened the door. Melissa stood there with 2 large boxes and a rolling suitcase. Her face looked thinner than I remembered, with new lines around her mouth. She looked older, tired. When she saw me sitting in my armchair, her expression flickered between anger and something that could have been relief. "Mom," she said. "Melissa." She noticed Dorothy standing by the kitchen and Susan sitting on the couch with a notepad. "Who are these people? Are you seriously having witnesses for this?" "Come in or don't," I said calmly. "But if you're staying, put your boxes down. You're blocking the doorway." She dragged everything inside, breathing hard. "I drove 14 hours to get here." 14 hours, Mom. You couldn't even give me your address. I had to track you down like you're some kind of criminal." "You tracked me down like I'm prey," I corrected. "There's a difference." "Oh, don't be dramatic." She looked around my apartment, her nose wrinkling slightly. "This is where you've been hiding. It's so small." "It's perfect." She turned to face me fully. "Okay, you've made your point. You were mad about the house thing. I get it, but this has gone on long enough. I'm here now. Let's talk about how to fix this." "Fix what exactly?" "Fix us. Fix this family." She gestured wildly. "You can't just abandon your only daughter because of one disagreement." "One disagreement?" I stood up slowly. "Melissa, you tried to steal my house. You planned to declare me incompetent. You were going to put me in a cheap nursing home and take everything I'd worked for my entire life." "That's not." She stopped, realizing denial wouldn't work with witnesses present. "Okay, maybe I got carried away with the planning, but it was never malicious, Mom. I just needed help. And you have so much, and I have so little." "You have so little because you spend everything you earn. That's not my emergency to fix." She changed tactics, her eyes welling with tears. "Fine, you're right. I messed up. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry, but I'm still your daughter. I'm still family, and families forgive each other. If you're watching this and you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel because what happened next, you're not going to believe." I looked at my daughter standing in my living room with her boxes and suitcase and plans, and I said the words I'd been practicing for weeks. "You're right. You are my daughter, which is why I'm giving you exactly what you deserve." Melissa's face lit up. She actually smiled. "Thank you, Mom. Thank you. I knew you'd come around. I knew deep down you'd—" $1, I interrupted. The smile froze. "What? You'll inherit $1 from me. It's already in my will, signed and notarized. Susan here has copies. You can't be serious. Completely serious. The rest goes to charities and to cousins who actually call me on my birthday." I paused. "The house you wanted so badly? It's providing free housing to abuse survivors. 4 families so far. Real people with real problems, not fake emergencies manufactured to guilt your mother. I drove 14 hours in a car I didn't ask you to drive to an apartment I didn't invite you to, carrying boxes I assume are full of your things, which means you plan to move in here without asking. Am I wrong?" She didn't answer. The silence was answer enough. "Those boxes go back in your car," I said firmly. "You're not staying here. You're not welcome here. And before you threaten me with abandonment or loneliness or whatever manipulation you've prepared, let me save you the trouble. I have friends. I have a community. I have a life I built without you, and it's better than anything I had before." "I'm your daughter," her voice cracked, and for a moment I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "Then act like it," I said quietly. "Daughters don't steal from their mothers. They don't scheme and plot and lie. You want forgiveness? You want a relationship? Then you need to actually earn it. Not with tears, not with guilt trips, with genuine change." Susan stood up, holding out a document. "Mrs. Peterson, this is unnecessary." "She should see it," I said. Susan handed Melissa a paper. It was a restraining order application, filled out but not yet filed. If you contact me again without my explicit permission, this gets filed, I told her. If you show up at my home again uninvited, it gets filed. If you harass my friends or my family for information about me, it gets filed. Melissa stared at the paper, her hands shaking. You'd really do this to your own daughter? You'd really have tried to declare your own mother incompetent for money, I replied. So yes, I really would. She grabbed her boxes with jerky, angry movements. Tears were streaming down her face now, but I couldn't tell if they were genuine or performance. Maybe she couldn't either anymore. At the door, she turned back one last time. You'll regret this. The only thing I regret, I said, is not doing it sooner. She left. The door closed. I heard her footsteps fade down the hallway. Dorothy came and sat beside me, putting a gentle hand on my shoulder. Susan started packing up her papers. Whiskers jumped into my lap, purring. Are you okay? Dorothy asked softly. I took a deep breath, looked around my small, perfect apartment with my friends and my cat and my freedom. Yeah, I said. I really am. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I meant it. Subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video.